In this video, we're going to be doing some code cleanup as well as reorganizing our hierarchy in preparation for upcoming videos on multi-threading and infinite train generation. Alright, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our scripts and UI, and this voxel editor visuals, I'm going to rename this to voxel editor UI. And this is to be more consistent with what it actually does, because it manages the UI of our voxel editor. So let's go ahead and open this up in Visual Studio Code, or Visual Studio, and just rename the class in there as well. Alright, now I don't want to hold this in the scripts folder since this is actually part of the voxel system, so I'm going to move this down into the scripts folder of the voxels. I am also going to delete the UI folder, and we're also going to take the voxel editor and move it down here into the voxels folder under scripts. Alright. So renaming and moving of classes is done. Now let's go and reorganize our hierarchy. First, let's go into our player, and we'll see we have the voxel editor script attached to the player here. Let's create a new game object, and let's call this the voxel editor. Alright, now let's go into our player, and all you have to do is to grab the script from here and drag it into the voxel editor right there. Let's also rename our editor visuals game object from editor visuals to editor voxel editor UI to be consistent. And then we also, in the script voxel editor UI, we need to reset its reference to the voxel editor, so just drag that in. Then we're also going to go to our voxels game object, and instead of storing the renderer and voxel store on it, we're going to call it voxel renderer. And we're going to create another game object to hold the voxel store, so voxel store. And then in the voxel renderer, let's move the voxel store into here. Alright, the voxel store still has a reference to the renderer, and everything's working. Let's create a game object, and this is going to simply be the parent to all of our voxel game objects related to the voxel system. So let's call this voxels with 3 minus signs in front and behind. Then let's drag in our voxel store, and before we drag in the voxel store, let's make sure all the positions are reset. So go to the voxels game object, voxel automata. Alright, the position does not need a reset, but in our voxel automata we can see the store reference needs reset, so let's do that. Let's also rename the automata from automata to voxel automata. And with that, everything is good, so let's drag these underneath the voxels game object, as well as the editor and the store, and the voxel editor UI as well. Alright, now let's create another empty game object, and let's call this the rig, with 3 minus signs before and after. Then for the rig, we're going to put the player and the indicator underneath of it. And before we do that, let's actually make sure that the rig is reset. So reset that. Player and indicator. Alright, put it in there. And then we're also going to create another one for the UI. So UI and the canvas and the event system. Let's drag that in there. And then finally, one last game object for the environment. Environment. Alright. And then the directional light and the global volume can go in there. Oh, before we put it, let's make sure that the position is reset on that as well. Alright, and the UI also, let's reset that position and reset that position. Alright, in the environment, let's put all these. Now just make sure every game object, its position has been reset to 0, especially under the voxels. Alright, let's playtest to make sure there are no errors. And if I try to add a voxel, let's just go up here and hold left click. Nothing happens. Why is that? Oh, and we're getting an error. So let's go ahead and to the console. Alright, so in the voxel editor, let's go into the inspector. And of course, we need to set the reference to our voxel store. Alright, let's click play again. And yep, with that, everything is working. Alright, with those changes, we are now ready for the next upcoming videos. And I'll see you in there.